Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast shakier than Willson Contreras behind the plate. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, everybody.
And this week, we are going to be talking about all the recent off-season moves. Ben, the hot stove is lit.
Mamma mia.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. So last week we got together, you and I, like we do every week now, and we lamented how boring the off season had been. You know, we knew, of course, it's Thanksgiving and all that, but still, it was a particularly slow moment. Don't worry, of course, we still put together an hour and 40 minutes of content, but
we did. I think we started with 10 minutes of Thanksgiving content. While
yeah.
first me stating that I don't even like Thanksgiving, but we got there.
We got there. So this week, wow, what a change. We actually have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Too much. The winter meetings are coming to a close. John Mozeliak went into the winter meetings stating he had the objective of solving the catcher position, and that has been solved.
Yeah.
But I think before that, let's hit the biggest thing probably of probably the entire offseason, which was the drama around Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
And then the eventual signing to a absolutely insane contract. There are two things stood out to me. One, the false alarm from, I think it was John Heyman, saying he was going to the Giants,
God,
which
just
is
dropping an egg all over Twitter. Like, what all-time bad tweet. And then he also called him arson.
Arson Judge.
Arson Judge signs with the Giants or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's entered into meme Hall of Fame. Arson Judge is going to be something that we're hearing about for the rest of our lives. But you know, he says he's going to the Giants, which was some good drama. The Giants have tried and failed to sign a lot of big free agents over the last few years, so it seemed like finally they'd got their guy. And nope, he is staying with the Yankees. After Judge bet on himself, a decision that you and I both thought was stupid.
Yeah.
Like most people did. The Yankees thought was stupid. They thought it was so stupid. They publicly said it was stupid, basically, by releasing the contract numbers. And here we are, 9 years, $360 million.
Man.
It's a cool 40 a year.
He's 40. Until he is 40 years old. He is coming into the season at 31. I think he changes. I think he turns 32 mid-season. Can you I know what's crazy is that Aaron Judge's move was so savvy and he had such a good year. I mean, he had the best non-Bonzian year in the past, 3 decades? I don't know how to so he did that. He had the home run race. He plays in the biggest city in the country for one of the most important sports teams in the world, still performed, bet on himself, and made $40 million a year. He increased his overall guarantee by what, like 150 million, 160
around
million?
150. Yeah. Was it someone, I think it was Buster Olney, called it a total surrender by the Yankees?
Yeah, it was. He had the Yankees, like I just said, the most powerful sports franchise in all the land. He had them by the balls. Like, they had no other option. What are they going to do? If the Yankees don't sign Aaron Judge, what is their move outside of that? Like, it really did. Not to mention, Aaron Judge is now going to be wearing the C on his jersey. He is now the captain of the Yankees, taking that over from Derek Jeter, who there was a gap in between, those two playing, or Jeter playing. Like, He he bet on I don't think I think it's completely unprecedented. I cannot think of a situation where a team was put in a position where the guy he just kind of sitting back and like, and he's like, kind of like petting his cat and like, evil laughing to himself in some boardroom somewhere. And then also the little flights out to San Diego, the flight out to San Francisco where the reporter caught him coming out of the hotel saying, Aaron, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm just seeing family. Like all these little games he played, and it all worked perfectly
Yeah.
for him. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's not uncommon for guys to bet on themselves, right? We hear that all the time. But I don't think we've ever seen it to this degree of stakes where someone turned down what most thought was an overpay in the first place,
Yeah.
and then having, I mean, truly an incredible season. And yeah, I mean, the contract's insane. It's probably going to be bad for the Yankees, like maybe quickly, but good for Aaron Judge,
Yeah.
and the Yankees will be fine. They've got more money than they'll be
Yeah.
fine.
And I think like what I also kind of excited about, and just because I think this is the baseball I don't know, landscape that you and I grew up in, and that we think of like, or and I guess the Yankees' reputation is what I'm getting. It's kind of a return to form from them being
Yeah,
like, nope, we're the New York Yankees. I don't care if it costs $40 million a year into your age 40. We know for a fact this is not going to age well. We're the New York Yankees. We're ponying up. We want the guy that's going to be on every magazine, every front page of the
yeah,
paper. This is our guy.
yeah. I
Um,
saw someone say like, if the Yankees can't outbid everyone, then what are they even good for at this point?
100%, yeah.
Yeah,
And it seemed like Hal Steinbrenner got involved. Like, I mean, you have to when you're talking about a deal of this magnitude. And it sounds, it's like his dad came out in him a little bit. He was, I'm going to throw money at this problem. I don't care. I'm involved. Let's make it happen.
yeah. And Brian Cashman said like, we don't really have a plan B. Because it would be a total
What
roster
do you
rebuild
go
if
get Brandon Nimmo? Like, what do you do if you don't get Aaron Judge?
well, and they weren't even that good. Like he is that team at this point.
Yes.
They looked like the best team in baseball for the first few months of last season, and then basically the entire second half of the season they were trash except for Aaron Judge. I mean, it was like everyone outside of Aaron Judge had a WRC plus of like 80 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Like the team,
I
but he
think
he alone lifted them.
I think it
It's
was Dan
wild.
Zembrowski that said it was Aaron Judge and the equivalent of the Pittsburgh Pirates for the second half of the Yankees season.
Yeah.
Um,
And they still
and
won a
yeah, I
bunch of
mean,
games
yeah, they
because
did.
he was so good.
Yeah,
And their pitching staff is still gonna be good, but, yeah, I mean, he is the team, he's the offense. They frankly still need to do more if they really expect to compete in the AL with the Astros and some of the other teams that are continuing to rebuild, but, like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm excited for him. I'm also glad that he's not a Giant, just don't have to play him very
I don't know.
much.
Getting able to watch him in course from my seat would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's true.
Aaron Judge getting, I don't know, I can't even how whatever the games are all changed, but watching him 7 or 8 games a year in Coors Field and hitting 500-foot bombs would have been great for me personally. And I also I do think it is just generally entertaining when somebody like him leaves. But I wonder also, like, to bring it back to the Cardinals, like, do you think any part of him was thinking about Albert Pujols when he was signing this contract? Like, do I want to go out west and play with a team, and maybe not necessarily be forgotten by Yankees fans, but kind of be out of that light, out of that like being held in that level of reverie, or do I want to stick with the team? Because by all accounts, he got larger offers from the Padres and the Giants. He lost a little bit. I mean, we've talked about this principle a few times. Like when you're talking 350 plus $1 million, does another 50 or another 20, does that even
Right.
really matter? But by all accounts, he took a slight home discount, even though we're talking about the most insane deal for a
Well,
31-year
and
old player.
state taxes in California are pretty high,
Yeah,
so there is that element too. But yeah, I have to imagine to some degree. I don't know if people think about Pujols specifically, but that the entire these guys once they get to this level, their legacy,
right,
right, is something that you think a lot about, or at least I think some people think a lot about. I do think it's interesting, like Judge. Obviously, he's coming off of this incredible season. He had a good year last year, and then he won the Rookie of the Year, of course, one of the best rookie seasons. But he also had several years of downtime,
yeah,
um, and he's already 31, or will be 31 or 32 or whatever. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'd almost be thinking of it in the other way. Like, New York is the worst market to be like not elite in,
yeah,
and so it almost makes you think like, I don't know, if you're worried about your legacy, you could go to San Francisco and blend in a little bit more. And it's not
sure,
like, and going to San Francisco is not the same as going to the Angels. San
yeah,
Francisco is a more storied, more successful franchise. But obviously, he's not a kind of guy. He literally just famously bet on himself and
yeah,
did really well off of it. He's probably not. He's thinking, I want to be in New York to be the most popular guy in New York for the rest of my
right.
career.
Yeah, and
But
like
yeah, I don't know.
Albert is I would guess it's basically a guarantee that Pujols will have a statue in front of Bush by Stan and Ozzy and all those guys at some point, maybe around his induction to the Hall of Fame or maybe sooner. Like if Aaron Judge goes out to the Giants and spends the remainder of his career on the West Coast or just not with the Yankees, like is he still on track to get something in their little monument park out in the outfield? Like, is he going into the hall if he is going to
No,
be Hall of Fame worthy with a Yankees cap? Like, probably not. And I don't know. Like, it seems insane for any individual to think along those lines. But like you just said, like obviously, Aaron Judge thinks very highly of himself and is extremely confident in his ability. So like, I do wonder what kind like
yeah,
if those type of legacy type thing really do weigh in. I mean, they must, right? Like, especially when you see Babe Ruth and Derek Jeter and all these like all time greats with their little plaques out there in the outfield. I don't know, but
yeah. I
interesting.
don't know. I do, looking into it a little bit, I wanna be, a little more fair to him. His worst year outside of 2020, he still put up 4.3 F4. So even, like, his worst years, he's been, really good. It's mostly been
Yeah.
injuries. But when you talk about the Hall of Fame, um, he's at 36.1 F4. Normally, you're trying to get to around 60. So, if he has a good next 5 years, he definitely is on track for it. But
I
that's a
mean,
lot of, that's a
if
lot
he
of,
puts up two more 8, 9, 10, 11 WAR
yeah.
seasons, then lock that thing up. It's
Well,
done,
yeah,
But
yeah. It doesn't. I mean, yeah, it all depends on what you're getting from him. He just did
yeah,
11.4,
yeah.
so a third of his F4 came from the last 162 games, 157 games. So
So we should move on. There's a lot of other stuff to talk about, but Aaron Judge put up in his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year, like you're talking about, he put up 8.7 Fangraphs WAR. Do you think at any point over the length of the contract over the next 9 years that Aaron Judge eclipses or matches 8.7 WAR?
I think I'll give him one more of those.
Okay,
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm mostly betting on the odds is just how unlikely that is just in general.
yeah,
But I mean, what an incredible season he just had. I mean, he did absolutely everything phenomenally.
he
You
did.
know,
He was
like
even
it.
playing center field.
I know
Like
it's so
people don't
stupid.
talk about that. He was a center
Yeah,
fielder for like a good chunk of the year.
yeah,
Ugh,
it's incredible. I mean, he hit 311. He had a nearly 16% walk rate. A 340 BABIP, but his career average is 314. So a little lucky, maybe his batting
yeah,
average comes down a little bit. Oh no, he hits 280 and 50 bombs, I guess.
yeah.
I don't know what the new floor for him looks like after what he did last year. But I will he eclipse 10 again? Probably not. That seems unlikely, just statistically speaking. But I'll give him another. 8.7, but
Yeah.
health is the big thing,
Yeah.
he's a big, weird tank human, and, he could break like he did a couple times already, so
Yeah.
we'll see. But yeah, anyway, we're a Cardinal podcast. I just like the Judge stuff was so fascinating, and it's arguably the biggest story of the offseason,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
and it's done now. So wanted to cover it up front. But let's talk about uh the biggest free agent signing in Cardinal history. Uh,
Which is
uh
true, which
which is
it is
true.
it is
Yeah.
true. I don't love that it is true, but it is.
Yeah, it's true as long as you without the caveat of, someone who's never played for the Cardinals
Right.
before,
Yeah.
right? So, obviously, we have the, Goldie extension and
Holiday.
Arenado and Holiday and
Yeah.
Arenado, I mean, Pujols way back in the day was
Yeah.
more than this,
Yeah.
but anyway, so, uh, Cardinals have signed Willson Contreras. 5 years, average 17.5 AAV. It's been an interesting couple days. I'm sure, like, Ben and I, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably were pretty glued to, whatever your news source of
Oh my
choice
god.
is, and, it's been an interesting couple days. If you asked me yesterday, I would have said, "Sean Murphy, here we
Yeah.
go, it's happening," and then all we'll talk about it in a minute, but like apparently something happened, something changed, and here we are with former Cub great Willson Contreras as the new catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
And this only happened a few hours ago. What's your hot take? How you feeling about this?
Yeah, we talked about I think it makes sense to talk about this on like the 30,000-foot view, and that was that the Cardinals had a massive, massive glaring hole in catcher. We talked about how little Yachty played, even though he was a good defender still and a very solid framer for his limited play last year. We talked about how bad Andrew Knizner was on all sides of the ball, framing,
Yeah.
throwing, hitting. I don't know. He was good at post game interviews, I guess. If I want to be nice, I think he's a nice, charming young man.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody's been talking about how bad Wilson Contreras is at aspects of being a catcher, and he's still better than Kisner in almost, if not
oh,
all of them, every like across the board. So
yeah, and so it's not even close, and we're basically turning, what was a negative. I think the Cardinals catchers put up -6 WAR last year, to a player who I think you can very reasonably expect 3-ish WAR. I would say 2.5 to 3.5. Like maybe he maxes out at 4. 5 in like a career year, which we're probably past that happening, like him getting any better. Although if you dig into his ball profile, there are some things to really like. So yeah, it is an obvious good thing, and I think like a way that I bet you John Mozeliak is talking about this, and a way that it probably should be framed is that the Cardinals had a glaring hole with their team, an obvious hole, and they went out and signed the best free agent at that position for a deal that I think you could say is fairly reasonable. Like, is are the Cardinals going to get surplus value on that deal? I think almost guaranteed at that $17.5 million deal a year. Which is crazy because that's like 5 million or $500,000 or more a year than Matt Holiday. Oh, geez, than Matt Holiday was getting
yeah,
paid back in the day. But that just speaks to
just
how baseball salaries have changed, and also the spending that's been going on this
this
winter. I think has
this
been
off season
crazy.
is wild. The total spend is already over $1 billion, and like outside of Trey Turner and Aaron Judge now, like the vast majority of marquee free agents are still available.
Yeah,
And yeah, I haven't seen the like recent recalculation of this number, but not that long ago, the average sort of spend per war was around $8 to $9 million.
right.
I bet it's more like 10 to 11 at this point. So as long as Contreras puts up somewhere around 2 F4, you're getting your money back on that production. And
Yeah,
I would it'd have to go pretty poorly for him not to at least put that up, like you were saying. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be like consistent here. Contreras was pretty far down on my list of like who I really wanted the Cardinals to go for, but the fact of him being the absolute best option on the free agent market and the Cardinals getting him, it is really hard to complain about that
Yeah.
because we don't know what happened behind the scenes and all these other options. And if you're not signing Contreras and you're not able to make one of these trades, um, like what do we cannot go another season with Knizner as the starter. So like if you're gonna sign a free agent, get the best one possible. I mean, I
Yeah.
know there's an argument for like a stopgap Vasquez or Narvaez or whatever, but no, this like I think we're also viewing this through the lens of Cardinal fans, which we and the organization have always talked about how defense from the catcher position is a premium. It's a primary goal of the St. Louis Cardinals, and that was always really easy for us to say because we had Yadier Molina. But this is the post Yadi world, and so if you can't get elite defense, um, how about getting the best hitting catcher outside of like a real Muto or I mean, there's a couple guys out there that would contend to be better um, than Contreras, but I mean, Real Muta's contract was 3 years ago and $40 million more than this.
Right.
So
Yeah, and like
um,
we've gotten Yachty has everything that Cardinals fans know, right? But if you're talking about production, war, the kind of things that front offices are looking at very, very closely these days, we haven't gotten the kind of production that Willson Contreras will provide since like I don't know, like 2018 when Yachty
no,
was still
so
hitting a little bit.
I was just looking at this while we've been talking. So I'm gonna run down. Um, if we're just talking offensive, right? So WRC plus. Um, in 2014, he had a 102, so league average. In 2015, he had an 81. In 2016, bounce back year, he had a 114. It was a great year. And then speed run the next 6 seasons 95, 105, 88, 83, 83, 51. Now, to contrast that, Willson Contreras, his entire career, 126, 122, 101, 126, 110, 111, 132, and that being
Yeah.
last year. So, I mean, it's that is a significant difference, and one that I think we will notice pretty quickly when once this lineup gets going. I mean, having him batting what fifth, sixth, maybe
Yeah.
depending on how Tyler O'Neill is playing, is going to be a significant improvement to this lineup to an already good run scoring team. I mean, it's a huge upgrade that can't be understated. Now, one other point I want to make before we talk about maybe some of the downsides too. He is 30, but he's only played 730 games at the major league level. So while there's just elements of aging that it doesn't matter how much you've played, being 30, you're not as um, fit as like a 25-year-old or whatever. But like as far as catchers go and as far as just games on the field go, that's pretty low for his age. And he just had the best season of his career. So there's an argument to be made that there are better seasons coming for him. Um, and I we are an optimistic podcast, so I choose to say we're getting him right at the beginning of the peak, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially when you look into the offensive profile, I think without a doubt there are things to be excited about, and I think without a doubt, however that production comes, it is not going to be the way in which Cardinals fans are used to it, but the production is going to come, and really, in 162, that is what you're looking for. You're looking for value add, and especially like finding a catcher that can hit. We talked about this. There's like 5 of them, maybe 6 depending on how much you believe in some of these like up and comer people. But the list is short for a guy that can actually contribute on offense and legitimately catch the baseball. And
Yeah.
Willson Contreras can do those things. Like this is going to be a downgrade comparing to Yachty, who is a generational, one of the best defensive catchers of all time, obviously. And he is in the bottom third of defensive catchers in Major League Baseball. But it's not like we're putting behind like an emergency catcher or anything like that. He's got a great pop time. He has a super powerful arm. I think I looked it up. He had the ninth fastest average throw speed according to Baseball Savant last year. So like he's toolsy. He's got things that
Yeah.
you want.
I saw also
But it's gonna be a downgrade.
he has is like double the next highest in back pick attempts,
Yeah,
which
that's gonna be fun.
we're gonna love that.
Yeah.
That's stuff Yachty would do that we loved. So yeah, it's different. But I'm for it. I like, especially so if we can talk about the trade side of it, like we don't know what the A's wanted for Murphy, and we don't know what the Blue Jays wanted for any of their three catchers.
Yeah.
But both of those teams have as much an excuse to not trade those guys as they do have to trade them, right? You could argue maybe with the Blue Jays, like, do they really need three? But one of them is still essentially, a rookie. They can just keep him in AAA and
Yeah.
let him continue to develop. And the A's, Murphy still has 3 years of control. They could maybe get a better package at a trade deadline or even another year. What if he has an even bigger year this year? Like
Well,
they don't have to trade him. So
not
who knows
yeah.
what they were asking
And
for?
I think that's the important part is not only do they not need to trade him, he's not expensive yet. They have no sense of urgency. It's not like they can get Sean Murphy and Langoliers.
I
They're
think it's Langoliers. It's a cool last name
it
though.
is a cool last name. It's hard for my
Yeah.
Midwestern mouth to wrap around it. But like they're not trying to win. They're far away from winning. They are in the mode where they need to collect the best packages they can possibly get. And yeah, you're 100% right. Like we know for a fact that you're going like let's say they do end up trading him trading deadline. Like you're going to get probably $1.50 on a dollar for Sean Murphy at the trading deadline than when you would get probably a dollar for a dollar here. So I'm sure that the A's were waiting to be blown away. I'm sure that being blown away includes Jordan Walker or Mason Wynn or some combination of those players. And
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing to think about is if it is going to cost Jordan Walker plus, I mean, I kind of like being a little smaug and hoarding my prospect gold rather than, kind of shelling it out. Uh, and I mean, the conversation also needs to go back to Ivan Herrera. Like, where does he, like, how much are we going to, or I guess let me take a step back. Willson Contreras is not going to start 162 games behind home plate this year. So he's probably going to start 100 ish. He's probably going to DH some. Who is picking up that third of the season? And I have a big
Yeah.
question around that. Um, because I really
Well,
don't want it to be Andrew Knizner.
I know. Well,
Um,
so Contreras only started 73 games as a catcher last year,
right.
and he started somewhere around 40 as a DH. And so a lot of people have been pointing to that, like, oh, we needed a catcher, and we went and got a part-time catcher, and that's kind of true.
Yeah.
But also the Cubs were in a weird spot last year too. They weren't necessarily trying to win. They should have traded Contreras, although of course now they get a draft pick from the Cardinals for this signing. But anyway, they were not a team that was trying to win every single game. So the usage is just going to be different between the two teams. But to your point, like, okay, maybe he starts more than 73, but he's still probably not starting 120 or even he's probably not starting 130 or even 120. Uh, what I would love to see is Ivan Herrera. Like I don't we don't know enough about what happened last year to know why he got so pushed back down. Like, why did Austin Romine need to be signed?
Right.
We got little bits of information about game readiness and game preparation. But he's also only 22, incredibly young for any baseball player, let alone a catcher. Catchers are usually coming into the league later because it takes so long to develop that element of the skill set. So this could be the plan where you bring in this guy. He's veteran, he might not be the best defensive catcher, but he has everything else. He has all the intangible stuff. Everyone keeps talking about the fire in his belly and whatnot, which is fun. I it's not everything, but you'd prefer it over like a Colby Rasmus, right? Um, the opposite of a fire.
Well,
Um,
what is that it will, like, Cardinals fans will immediately love him,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that
he
is
seems like a
yeah,
great dude.
yeah,
And so I'd love to see the tandem of Contreras and Herrera, with Herrera getting that mentoring at the big league level while Contreras plays every day. Um, they clearly weren't ready for Herrera to play every day last year, but I don't know. It's kind of a mystery to me why he's so buried, and they've never even said his name in this offseason. It was
yeah.
just like, we know we need a catcher. They've never said like, we have Herrera, but we need someone else. He's somehow gone from a top prospect in baseball. Like, he was on a lot of top 100 lists, edge of it, but still top 100 lists, top 10 catching prospect in baseball, to suddenly gone. And I just have to imagine that was more about the like intangible side of catching, and they knew that they needed someone to be there as the leader of the catching department, and that's what they're going for. But if
Well,
he's not ready, like, I can't think of a better like,
the
one last point, then I'll then you can jump in, because if
yikes.
the if he's if he's still truly going to be this like future um catcher, like catcher of the future, star catcher that a lot of people think he is, then this is the perfect signing, because Contreras is coming in not expecting to play 140 games, right? And so if Contreras becomes an increasingly poor catcher but can still hit well in year 3 of this contract, year 4 of this contract, then you've got a perfect combo where now Ivan has ascended up to taking over the bulk of the starts, and Contreras is playing DH or first, or he's done time in the outfield. He's done time at other infield positions. He's an incredibly athletic dude. So, um, it we'll see, but this to me is a really interesting and compelling part of it.
I think, trying to follow that long meandering thought about Ivan Herrera.
I feel like I nailed it, each word. Thank you very much.
Perfect dismount.
Yep.
I think it's a win now move. It is.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are looking at their team. Willson Contreras, and I'm going to call him Willie because I think that's fun, and I saw that he likes being called Willie. Willie, I don't know if it's working
I
or
don't know.
not.
Yeah. I'm not going to.
Um, hmm.
I'm gonna say
Contreras,
I'm gonna say Willson Contreras
the
fully every time.
the contract lines up really well with Nolan Arenado's contract. It lines up really well with Paul Goldschmidt's contract. It lines up really well with the Cardinals' competitive window. Like, maybe a little too long if you're looking at some of those big guys. But this is a win now move, and I think probably the evaluation that happened, and I'm speculating a little wildly right now, is that even Herrera comes up. Yadier Molina is like, son, you gotta do X, Y, and Z. Ali Marmol agrees. John Mozeliak, therefore, agrees. And they say, we need to go get somebody who can help us win right now, who can call a big game. Willson Contreras has the intangibles. He has been in the World Series. He's done all of those things. And oh, by the way, he's the 5th best hitting catcher in baseball with the potential to be, a 1 or 2 at that position, kind of depending on how it all shakes out. So I would love to hear them explain that. But to me, it speaks to the competitive window that the Cardinals are currently in. And it's hard, I'm guessing what they're viewing is that it's hard to be competitive with a little baby boy behind home plate. And that's just not the risk that they wanted to take. And I hope you're right. I hope it is those two. Although, like, one of the questions I have here on the outline is, should the Cardinals be done with the catcher position? Like, how much would Omar Narvaez cost for a year or two? Does it make sense to have? I mean, I want to pick on Omar Narvaez because he's a left-handed hitter who has had recent success. He is a above average framer. He's essentially the opposite player of Willson Contreras. And I wonder, does it make sense? You need a lefty bat. You need a backup catcher. Do we keep Ivan down? But then the real question is, how expensive is somebody like that going to be? And does it make any sense? And I think it's worth entertaining, but there's such a question mark with Herrera that it's hard to sit where I'm sitting and say anything with confidence.
Yeah. I suspect that they're going to go into the season with Willson Contreras and Knizner, and
Ugh.
then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
But I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope they go in with Contreras and Herrera, or I'd be for Contreras and um, Narvaez, or once you get to that level, there's so many of those types of guys, that are going
Yeah.
to be like, they're not going to do anything particularly well, but they're also not going to kill you. That's why they went and got Austin Romine,
Right.
and
Well,
um,
I would put Omar Narvaez a little above
sure,
Austin
same.
Romine. No
I
offense
mean,
to Austin
there,
Romine, but
there was a little while where Narvaez looked like one of the best catchers in baseball.
yeah,
So don't get me wrong, I hear you, but like that next tier after
for sure.
Contreras, um, which another thing to point out, other teams were in on Contreras.
Yeah.
The Cardinals have, we as Cardinal fans love to lament how often the Cardinals are in second place on these sorts of things. But you know who also was going for Contreras? The Houston Astros. And when the Astros are going for someone, it's kind of like anytime the Dodgers or the Rays are doing something, you're like, oh shit, why did the Rays want that guy from,
Yeah.
and so like when the Astros were coveting Contreras as well, you got to feel good about getting him over them.
Yeah,
Just
although did you
uh,
see Jeff Bagwell? He is like kind of in Jim Crane's ear right now because they don't really have a GM, and he criticized the Astros for being too analytical. They how
yeah,
many they've been in 4 World Series in the
right.
past, what, like 6 years, and they've won 2 of them. And Jeff Bagwell never won a championship, is trying to steer the ship. It is crazy to me. It
Well,
is so I
I
can't
hope
believe
they
they
listen
fired
to
James
him.
Click or
Yeah,
basically pushed him out. Yeah, I hope they listen to him
I
too.
hope they listen.
Jeff Bagwell knows what he's talking about. Go for
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. All
Um
right. Well, I think there's
I,
so much more we could say. You got
yeah.
another point you got to make
Well,
on Contreras?
I just wanted to wrap it up in the sense of saying, like, this is good. The Cardinals are better right now for this deal. And I bet if, I don't know if they'll come out and say this or not, I bet the Cardinals really wanted to get this done early so that Willson Contreras or whoever the catcher was going to be can, get in the system, can
Right.
understand, the quote unquote Cardinal way, but really more like game theory, understanding the team, getting to know the pitchers, the coaches. Like, catcher more than any other position is so system based.
Yeah.
I imagine that was part of the motivation and what pushed this to happening before next year or whatever.
Yeah, that was maybe the most direct thing I've ever heard John Mozeliak say as a GM in
Yeah.
his entire career, was
Yes.
saying, "I intend to solve the catcher position at the winter meetings."
Yes.
It's like, who are you?
Yeah.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no.
going to say that we're trying to win the World Series this year, but I will say
Oh,
we're interested in a catcher.
well, yeah. Standard John Mozeliak would be like, well, going into today, Andrew Kisner's our starting,
We
well,
believe
he's our starting catcher, and
this
we're
impression is a
we're
joke.
pretty we're pretty comfortable with that. But we're exploring options. Um,
Ultimately, we believe in
well,
Andrew Kisner's ability.
um, you know, w- he's never really gotten a full chance at the position, so and thank you, I did nail it. I feel
Yeah.
like I got into it a little bit more.
No, you're
Um,
doing like a Muppet. I don't even know what that
he's got
was.
a Muppety tenor. He
Okay.
sounds like he dresses like a
He's
Muppet.
got a Muppety tenor.
He's very Muppet-like, and
Okay.
I love the Muppets. I think it's a compliment. But he talks and he dresses and talks like a Muppet, and
Okay.
I
Uh,
think that's cool.
it's cool, man. You're like Fozzie Bear. You're cool.
He's like Animal, you know?
Now that's a cool Muppet. I'm
That's a
back on
cool
board.
Muppet.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. I'm here.
This We don't know that John Mozeliak isn't just Muppet Man. 3 Muppets stacked underneath a bow tie.
Okay.
Geez. All right, where do we go next? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. That was the big thing going into this offseason. And here we are, December 7th, and like the biggest question is
Yeah.
answered.
They done
Willson
did it.
Contreras. They did it, which is cool and good, and I'm happy. But do you think that they are done?
No, no, I think full stop. I don't think that they're done. I think that, well, I will say this: if they are done, I'm highly disappointed in them being done.
Yeah.
What I will say, let's like, how many times do I need to say competitive window? And like, hell yeah, Cardinals. They're great at keeping that window at the very least cracked. But let's not joke about having two potential Hall of Famers at our corners and taking advantage of that. The last season of Adam Wainwright, yada yada yada. Um, I do think
Yada, yada, yada.
something that we need to talk about is the fact that Dansby Swanson has been associated with the Cardinals fairly aggressively as these winter meetings have gone on. And we've talked about Dansby a little bit. I think you and I, well, here, I guess I'll say my piece and I'll let you respond. Or first and ask a question, then I'll say my little piece. I suppose I don't know what to say, but Dansby is a baseball player. Um,
Holy shit.
my biggest question with Dansby is like I really don't have a reference point for what he is going to make this offseason. Like if you told me he's getting 5 years 120, I would say of course he's had one good year, but the defense is a little there, the batted ball profile is a little there. It's not all there, but man, he really put it together in 2022. If you told me he's getting closer to 200, I'd be like, wow, this market is crazy. Shortstops be getting paid. What the hell is Xander going to get? Xander's going to get over 200. So I have a huge question mark for that. But as far as evaluating him, because the money doesn't really matter to you and I or anybody listening, unless John Mozeliak is listening, which if he is, come on,
Oh, no.
let's talk
They don't they
about
don't
your
like my
favorite
bow
Muppet.
they don't like my bow tie.
he,
No, John, I love your bow tie and your
um,
little scarves and your ascots.
the ascots are good. They're a little like be a little more man with the people though, is what I would say. Like we get it. You're a very well paid, highly educated
He's erudite.
erudite. That's a nice word. Um, but talking about Dansby, first off, great name. I know some people think it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I think
Great
Dansby
name,
Swanson,
great
killer name.
hair, great name.
He has a lot of things to like, a lot. And I think a lot of those, like his ball profile is actually very similar to Willson Contreras, except for Willson Contreras has a little more high end like power, I think. And by that I mean like exit velocity, raw horsepower off the bat. Dansby Swanson swings a lot. He misses a lot. When he does hit it, he hits it pretty well. He's got very nice barrel percentages, very nice hard to hit percentages. He's been getting homer happy down there in Atlanta over the past few seasons. He is a smart defender. He is not a toolsy defender. He is a fast player. There are things to like about Dansby. But he's also the kind of player who could just start striking out so much that he becomes really, really rough in the batter's box. So, all that to be said, like if we want to have the same conversation about Dansby that we are just having about Willson Contreras, does Dansby make the Cardinals better? Absolutely. Is that how the Cardinals should get better? I don't know.
Yeah, so I think first of all, I think a lot of those rumors came up because of the wheeling and dealing that John Mozeliak, hey, was trying to pull off.
God.
Get out of here, John. Was trying to pull off in the background around trades. If the Cardinals trade Nolan Gorman, uh, signing a shortstop makes a lot more sense.
Right.
There's a lot of things that result in holes somewhere in the lineup that you fill with a Dansby Swanson. Because I do think I will be very surprised if Dansby Swanson is well into the 100 millions. I am expecting low low 100 million range. Um for a lot of the reasons that you said. He's got a 25% strikeout rate, almost 26. Doesn't take much more to start getting into real problem territory. And he's one of those guys who does everything average or above like slightly above average, and it only takes one or two of those skills dropping to where suddenly you're just average.
Yeah.
And I think which is what he was for the first several years of his career. It's only this recent power that has really put him into that next level. 27 home runs the year before last and 25 last year. But anyway, so I I don't think that the interest will still be there after signing Contreras. I think that the Cardinals will be content with Edman at short and Gorman/Donovan at second. And I, assuming we were willing to spend for Swanson, I think that money is considerably more well spent on a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine that that is where the direction will be at. Like I honestly, I think the most likely thing is that neither of those like high end level signings happen, and that Willson is the biggest move of the offseason. But um, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. But it's not my money. If they want to go and do it, I do think it makes them better. But I'm not sure if I'm looking for a 5 year, 100 million, 120 million
Yeah.
Dansby Swanson right now.
Yeah,
Um,
and to kind of build off that point that you just made, and I think it's super valid. And I want to point out the Cardinals after this upcoming season. Obviously, Wayno is going to retire. Jack Flaherty will be a free agent, as will Miles Michaelis. God, I'm never going to be able to say that guy's name right. And therefore, I think it makes a lot of sense to go throw boodles and boodles of cash. Boodles?
Boodles.
Oodles?
Bundles?
Ducats?
Turn
Um,
them into coupons.
credits at Rodon. I
Yeah,
know you love Rodon. Obviously, he's the best pitcher on the market right now, and it's I I kind of look at it. It was like Jacob DeGrom when he's healthy, Justin Verlander, Carlos Rodon, or everybody else.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Cliff.
Agree. And I'd if you're gonna spend 22 to 25 on Swanson, just go 28 or 30 or whatever you'll
Yeah,
need for Rodon. Um, or maybe he's still looking for that sort of pillow contract, and you could get him for 270. The Cardinals don't do that sort of stuff, but
yeah.
we're seeing that more often in baseball now. So,
I I
um,
wonder, like, tell me if you think I'm crazy. Could you get Rodon 5 years, 150?
yes, I think you could.
And I think
30 a year.
if that's the case, you do that. You almost
Yeah,
have to do something like that. That's the only thing that really moves the needle, unless the Cardinals know how healthy Jack Flaherty is and they want to go throw that kind of money at him. He probably wouldn't be
right.
that much with his health issues right now. Um, but like I said, like there are some guys in the minor leagues that look promising. Um, Dakota Hudson will still be here. Uh,
Yeah,
End of list. Like
yeah,
the not only do you have to think about right now, the 23 season where I think Rodon would be a huge boon to the team, but like I said, 2024, Mozeliak and team have to look that far ahead. Why not lock up the guy that you think, talk about low miles. This guy, it's been for health reasons, which is a little scary, but he seems to have figured it out to a certain degree. I would be willing to make the bet.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the health is it, he
Yeah.
had his first fully healthy season last year, arguably since 2016. And even then, it was still 178 innings, which is not nothing. And in the modern game, that's really what you're looking for from a starter. But
Yeah.
like your high end starters, you're still pushing 200.
Yeah.
So we've never seen him do that. Can he? I think this might be the year. And in a pitcher's park like St. Louis, with the defense in St. Louis, he's got that high K. He's exactly what they're looking for.
He,
And I
he
would,
is
yeah,
he is somebody who can win the Cy Young, and you can go get him with money.
yeah, yeah.
All right. We're of course running longer than I meant us to already. Let's move on really quick. The Cardinals did sign Guillermo Zuniga, to a big league contract. I guess really quick, just a couple of thoughts on him. Fastball slider combination. His fastball touches, 96 to upper 90s. And I just want to read a quick little blurb from Eric Logenhagen, the prospect guy from Fangraphs. He was Zuniga was a like a prospect in the Dodger system. So I'm just reading from that write up, something I thought was interesting. And he says, to start 2022, we've seen nothing but the upper 90s version of Zuniga. And he's more trim than in years past. And his slider execution has been more consistent. While his fastball's angle causes it to play down a little, Zuniga has turned a bit of a corner and should be considered a viable upper level injury depth and is likely to trickle into somebody's big league bullpen in the next year or two. So there's some good things. There's some Frenchy things there.
Yeah,
Not a slam dunk. I think really it's surprising that he got a big league deal.
it is.
But
I
here he
would guess
is.
that there must have been multiple suitors,
Yeah.
and he took the big league deal. I like it. I mean the your bullpen is a revolving door, and we need strikeouts, and that seems like what this guy can do. And so hopefully he clicks. We've talked for a while about the struggles the Cardinals seem to have with developing pitchers, but that rule does not apply to relievers, where generally the Cardinals have had a really good bullpen for a long time, and a lot of times it's finding guys like this and
Yeah.
turning them into something. So get him in high 90s, Dodgers prospect. You know, let's
Sure.
do it.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, he's you just cut him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's like 6'6" or 6'7" or something
Yeah.
like that, like 250. A big boy, throw hard. I like it.
I will
Um,
say his last name is really close to Zanino, that catcher.
yeah.
And I thought just the way that I read, Twitter or whatever, which is like half reading everything. I saw Cardinals sign Zuniga, and I was like, oh no, is Mike Zanino
Yeah.
the catcher solution that we landed on? He hit some bombs for the Rays, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
I was looking at Zunino as like, okay, if we're really scraping the barrel for a catching solution, we don't get Contreras, we don't get these other guys. And Zunino, he really had a rough 2022.
yeah.
He he'll get a job somewhere. But man, he's lost a step or two, I guess.
Ben, he put up a cool 43 WRC plus
Yeah.
last year. However, just a flat zero war. So even with that, so he's still got some defensive chops there.
Sure.
Um 4.5 war in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think he hit like 40 bombs, didn't he?
33.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got those thighs that, a lot of
Mhm.
power.
Benny loved those thighs.
I do.
All right. We've got some other stuff we want to talk about, but before we do, let's remind everybody how they can support the show. First and foremost, if you like the show, want to support it, want to support us, the time and effort that goes into making this, the hours I spend working on my John Mozeliak impression, staring into the mirror. Um, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Subscribers at any level get access to the Bird Score. That's our private Discord server. We're in there. There was a Willson Contreras Big Willie style
Uh,
parody
yeah.
in there today, which uh just the fact that the podcast has brought that sort of content into this world,
Yeah.
makes it worth it. And if you want to be a part of that, um, get in there,
Well, yeah, if
patreon.com
you're
slash
trying to start a
talking about
rap
birds.
group, like let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. That's my next move. Also consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Man, how about online?
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. And of course, you can always email us thoughts, questions, musings, concerns to talkaboutbirds at gmail.com. Nate's still looking for a cat name. Throw those cat names. We got some good punny cat names in the bird scored.
Yeah,
Keep sharing those. I'm going to force the best name upon this little kitten. And, he or she will be better for it, I think.
I agree. Yeah, we got a couple good ones. I like Raphael per call.
That's good.
It's a good one. Yadier Meowlina.
Classic.
There's a lot. There's a lot we could do with this.
Yeah.
Probably we'll find out on Monday. We finally have our vet appointment. We'll find
Wow.
out if it's a boy or a girl. So
Wow.
wow. Meow.
Meow. Jeez. Uh,
All right. There's been some movement in the NL Central.
yeah.
Not a lot, but there has been some. So let's run down it real quick.
Yeah. The Cubbies are starting to push their chips in, eh?
Yeah.
Um, I would not be surprised if the Cubbies spend a lot more money this year, this offseason. But so far, they have agreed to a 4-year deal. It's 4 years, $68 million for right handed starter, former Yankee and Pirate, Jamison Taillon. Um,
Probably
probably
a
a,
good signing.
Probably a
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, I was just going to say that he is. I mean, funny enough, he's kind of like a right-handed version of Jordan Montgomery. Like he's solid, maybe a step below Montgomery and stuff. Ground ball guy. I mean, you probably remember Jamison Taillon from his Pirates days if you haven't watched him pitch in a while. And he's pretty much that guy, just like healthy and a little more effective. So they've, I think, like you said, great signing there. They've also picked up Cody Bellinger on a 1-year, $17.5 million deal.
Man, I had all this stuff. I was planning an entire segment on this episode about why the Cardinals should sign Cody Bellinger. You prompted me last week how I felt about that, and I
Yeah.
wasn't really sure at the time. And in between then and now, I decided I was all in on the Cardinals signing Cody Bellinger. And now that he's a Cub, all my research was wrong, and
Yeah.
he's going to be bad.
Yeah.
So I'm glad the Cardinals didn't sign him. What a dumb signing by the Cubs.
Well, to counterpoint, I mean, there's pretty much no way this deal goes bad for the Cubs. They have all the money. The only thing he can do is perform well, and he's going to be a stellar center fielder for him. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, two
I
really
mean,
good moves by the Cubbies right there.
well, worst case scenario, he is what he was for the Cubs or for the Dodgers
Yeah.
last year, and that's still like 1.5 WAR and an elite center fielder.
Yeah.
Um, but I think he's gonna do even worse.
Yeah.
I think he's done. He's toast.
Yeah.
He forgot how to play center field
I think
over the summer, over
yeah,
the winter.
he's gonna pull a Ty Cobb and he's gonna climb into the stands and beat the shit out of a fan who only has one hand. I'm calling it right now.
I listened to an entire podcast about that, the Ty Cobb
Yeah.
event, and it was the first ever baseball strike also.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of scrub, like they broke the strike by hiring a bunch of scrubs to pitch or to play. And there's like a bunch of people who had never played baseball before
Yeah.
were like, there's still records today. There's a guy who gave up like the most earned runs given up in a baseball game is because of that Ty Cobb fight.
That's
It's
awesome.
really interesting. It's called The Dollop. I know you've listened to a little bit of it, but
Yeah.
they do great baseball stuff sometimes. So anyway, yeah, he's gonna be worse than Ty Cobb, I think.
Wow.
So yeah,
Well, everyone's worse than Ty Cobb, but I
yeah,
understand what you're saying. Hopefully also not a horrible racist monster
morally,
as
I
well.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
God. Okay. Yikes. Uh,
yeah.
well, moving on. I want to throw a little speculation out, Nathan.
Okay,
I
Benjamin.
think I think the Cubbies are going to be the ones to sign Dansby. I don't think the Cardinals will sign him. I think the Cubbies are going to dole out that 120, 130, 140, whatever million for 5, 6 years. I think that they're going to move Nico Horner to second base. And they're going to have a fantastic up the middle defense. And this is going to be kind of their like signing of like, hey, the Cubbies are back. We're doing this. And maybe they'll do more than that, but I think it's going to happen. We have a Vanderbilt connection. The Cubbies GM Carter Hawkins is a Vanderbilt former player, and as I'm sure everyone knows, Dansby was a big Vanderbilt star as well. I think there's going to be a little bit of a homecoming. I think he's going to make it happen, and I think the Cubbies are going to try to turn the corner. I don't think this. I don't think that would make them like jump up in the standings. But I do think it would then be a very 1, 2, 3 Cardinals, Brewers, Cubbies. So we shall
Yeah.
see.
Well, the Cubs clearly, um, have to see the window that's opening for another competitive team in the NL Central. We're
Yeah.
going to talk about the Brewers in a moment. Maybe they're not throwing in the towel just as hard as we thought they were, but still, like the Cubs have to see um, the opportunity to regain the top of the NL Central.
Yeah.
Even with everything the Cardinals are doing, it doesn't take much for a team to underperform and someone else take that spot. So
Yeah.
I hope they sign Dansby because we just talked a little bit ago about how much on the edge of not good he could be also.
Yeah.
And I bet if they sign him and Bellinger will go beat up uh, people in the crowd and
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the Brew Crew. The Mariners and the Brewers announced a trade sending second baseman Colton Wong, you know him, you love him, and cash considerations from Milwaukee to Seattle in exchange for outfielder Jesse Winker and infielder Abraham Toro. Um, I have a lot of emotions wrapped up in this trade. Obviously, I love Colton Wong. I think this is a great trade for the Mariners. They are, there's not many second basemen out there. They're getting a very good second baseman, a little bit of on base skill. With you, I mean, everybody knows how Wong plays. He's a plus player, and he's found a little bit of power recently. Um, and then yeah, Milwaukee. I guess I have to assume that Winker's going to DH for them, maybe a little bit of outfield, and Abraham Toro probably their second baseman now. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I guess like you said, like are they is what what kind of move is this for the Brewers? Like, are they taking a step back? Do they think that they can fix Winker? Because if they can fix him, I've talked about how much I think of
Right.
a fantastic hitter he is.
Just last week, you were
Yeah,
lobbying for Jesse Winker to be a Cardinal, and then
yeah,
this happened. Um, I think it's a pretty good trade for both sides. I think Toro's going to end up being the real um, sort of linchpin of this trade. So going into 2022, Toro was pretty hyped. He's only 24, coming off a good um, he'd put up almost one F4 with Seattle and Houston. He'd moved from Houston to Seattle. People were pretty hyped on him. And then 2022, the bottom drops out
yeah,
and he's bad. Negative, almost a negative full F4 in limited playing time. So really, really bad. So maybe they see something in him that they can fix. Still a lot of control, has a bit of a pedigree. Um, you know, there's a reason why he's been traded because teams have wanted him. They're not dumping him. He's young and cheap. So maybe they can figure it out and turn him around.
yeah,
And if so, that's great. Wong doesn't have a lot much left with them. So it could be good. I mean, it could end up being they just traded one of the better second basemen in baseball for a bad young player and a struggling veteran, So I guess as a Cardinal fan, we're hoping for that outcome.
Yeah,
But I thought this was a pretty smart trade for the Brewers. Winker has the highest ceiling, I think, of any of these guys,
sure.
and they need offense. That's their big problem. So if they can fix Winker, then Wink can hit.
Yeah, it's just such a like two. I agree with you. It's a move that makes sense for both sides. Um, I expect the Mariners to shove their chips in a little bit harder than like they traded for Teoscar, which I thought was a good move, not a great move. They trade for Wong, which I think is a good move, not a great move. Like, go get Xander Bogaerts. Like, you just made it to the playoffs for the first time in like 20
Yeah.
something years. Like, push in a little harder. Go get, well, don't get Rodon because I would like him, but go get somebody. Like, this
Yeah.
move is strange. Like, or the move is fine. Mariners, like, show up for your fans. What are you doing?
Well, again, though, to be fair, most of the free agents have not signed yet, right?
Yes.
So we haven't seen much, and the Mariners arguably have been one of the most active teams this offseason. So it's
Well,
kind of hard
Dipoto
to
is going
be,
to be Dipoto. Like,
yeah,
that's
it's
just the
kind of
way
hard
it
to be
is.
critical of them right now because they're
Oh,
actually doing something.
oh, I'm feeling critical. I think like if I was the Mariners, I would just go get Carlos Correa. Like that, I think that is the stage of their franchise that they're in.
Yeah.
They just need to go get somebody like that.
Yeah. Icing on the cake, cherry on top.
Um,
Um,
the dust that they put on top of the tiramisu that if you suck in will get in your throat.
li- little steak butter on top of the steak.
Little marsala on your chicken.
Yeah. A nice some pub cheese on your burger.
God, okay. All right. Should we move on to some league news?
Yeah,
There's a
let's do
lot of
it.
it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna cut. I tried to put this in like it's trimmed down. Well, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about this stuff next week. But we'll try to hit some of the big deals. Already talked about Aaron Judge, the biggest deal. Second biggest deal, craziest deal from my point of view, Trey Turner, 11 years, $300 million. He is a Philadelphia Philly till the end of time. He's back with his buddy Bryce. Um, the Phillies are
Yeah.
better.
Great. I mean, like the Judge signing, we'll see how this ends for them, but I think it's a great signing. I mean, they now this solves so many of their they just went to the World Series,
Yeah,
and whether you want to call it fluky or not, it happened. They went to the
yeah.
World Series, and part of their problem was defense, and their biggest hole on their team was shortstop. They had Edmundo Sosa, uh, so they went and got the best shortstop on the market, one of the best shortstops of the last like 15 years. I mean, there's a reason he got $300 million. He's an incredible player. It's whatever money he wants, and 300 over 11 years, AAV wise, like that's going to age pretty well unless he completely
Yeah.
collapses.
That the 11 years is what I thought was so surprising. I didn't think he'd get to 300 either. I definitely didn't think 11 years was even in the question.
Well, it's like Bryce Harper's 13,
Yeah.
330. It's like the Phillies are just locking up these guys, and it's an interesting experiment. We've not seen many teams do this, So in
I
8
can't think
years, are
think
the
of
Phillies
any
going to be
11-year
yeah. The 10-year deal was a hot thing for a minute with like what, A-Rod and then Pujols and stuff like that, but
Cano.
like Cano, and none of those went well. But also those guys were older when they took those deals.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper was what, 27 when he got his 13-year deal, and Trey's 29, so he's a little bit older, but you're still getting majority of his peak, and um he's like Dansby Swanson plussed up by 2.
Yeah.
He's not just like slightly above average at everything. He's like plus at everything.
Yeah.
Maybe not power because he's not hitting like 40 bombs or whatever, but he can hit 30. And in that Phillies ballpark, in that lineup, I mean, that lineup just got so much scarier.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
And like something that's crazy about him, I think we were talking about this, maybe it was in the Bird Scored, but the fact that he has been in the league for what 7 years or so, and he still has 99th percentile speed. Like the guy hasn't lost a step yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he ages. But yeah, good move. Keeping with the Phillies, they also locked up Taiwan Walker, 4 years, $72 million.
Opposite opinion.
Yeah.
Bad
Um,
deal.
he had a good first half and then he didn't anymore. And he made $72 million.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
believe it.
I I truly, this one I don't get at all. He's that guy that, like, I guess he's coming off maybe the best year of his career, but really it was like 2.5 months of really good. He's a everyone knows him because he's been like he went from top prospect to like hot young gun, and then now he's just basically bounced around the league, getting traded or signed, and like I don't know, pitchers don't usually get that much better in their at this point in his career, and that ballpark is not the easiest
No.
to pitch in. So,
No, he's a high
uh,
fastball pitcher too. Like,
yeah,
I
it
don't get
this
it.
I don't, yeah, and like, well, Quintana, gets 26 million, and
Yeah.
he arguably like better than Walker, like more track record. Like I don't get
Yeah.
I don't get where that why like did they bid themselves up? Like what who of there's like as you said, there's like a middle tier of pitchers that are there's just like 100 of them right
Yeah.
now that like why would you do that much money for him when there's so many other guys available? But I don't know.
They got
We'll
their
see.
guy. Yeah,
They
we'll
got
see.
their guy.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
throws the ball hard. So there you go. Speaking, Nathan, of somebody who throws the ball hard, Jacob DeGrom
Yeah.
is now a Ranger, 5 years, 185 million. There's a bunch of bonuses, and if you roll a nat 20, you get an extra year, but not if it's against a Bard. And there's a lot of kind of little things that go into this deal, but really face value, 5 years, 185. We'll see what else happens.
We're just gonna slide on past your deep D&D reference. Nice though. Yeah, this deal's getting a lot of hate. I will say I love this deal. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it's great.
100%. Are you kidding me?
The Rangers need to do this is exactly what the Rangers need to do. They have more like every team in baseball, they have more money than they need or that they could ever use. And
Yeah.
so they're actually going and spending it on the best pitcher on the planet. They have to compete against the Astros for the division. They need something to break in their on their side. And so they're gambling. It's a huge gamble. But if you're going to gamble, it's hard to argue against gambling on Jacob DeGrom. I mean, he's incredible. And if they only get 2 or 3 good seasons out of these 5, it might still be worth it. He's so good.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
far and away the best pitcher per inning in baseball right now. I don't think it's close. Um,
Yeah.
the health has been an issue recently. Can that get figured out over the next 5 years? I really, really hope so. And
Yeah.
I think Chris Young is smart. I do think. Let's talk about another signing that is notable by the Rangers. Andrew Heaney, a much more reasonable 2 year, 25 million. But you look at
So
both
why
of
do you
these.
get Taiwan Walker for 76 million when you can get Heaney for 25? Anyway,
No, I
yeah,
couldn't agree with you more.
yeah,
And the only
yeah.
reason I even put these guys in the same conversation is because you're really betting on health. Like the Rangers are betting on upside. They want, they're looking for the 90% or the 90th percentile outcome for both of those pitchers. And I respect that in a certain way, but you are those are two of your starting pitcher spots, and you are really, really gambling on two guys who have not been
Yeah.
healthy over the past 2 years.
I think it's great though.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of tools ready to compete, and this is their gap, and they're filling it with some of the best available, if not the best available on the market. And also, I mean, are you influenced at all by what like Scherzer, I know he got hurt a little bit, but like Justin Verlander, some of these guys are going into their late 40s now, and DeGrom is better than, well, hard to say better than Verlander and Scherzer,
When
but
healthy.
like
When healthy.
when healthy, he's better than both of those
Yeah.
guys. And so, there's worse gamble. You could be spending $76 million on Taiwan Walker, you know.
Yeah.
So
You could. And I think, DeGrom has only thrown the ball harder. The signs of age he's shown is that he's been getting injured, but, his stuff has not taken, Scherzer's stuff has taken a step back. Verlander's stuff has taken a step back. They're both still very good, but DeGrom's stuff is still the best in baseball. He has the best fastball in baseball, and he's in his mid 30s. You can't really treat him like you treat every other pitcher. Maybe, I don't think he's going to keep throwing the ball harder, but at some point it's going to, he'll come back down to being a human being, and he's only throwing 98. And I
right.
bet you he's still going to be good.
And hey, listen, if it all collapses, George Bush just has to sell a few more of his old dog paintings or whatever,
What?
and he'll get his money back. Is he still an owner in the
No,
ownership group of the
no, no. I believe it's John Middleton. And no, he has no affiliation with the Bush family.
He was an owner of the
Yeah,
Rangers. I just wanted to make the
he sold them before he became president. He was an owner in the 90s. It was a conflict of interest. Oh my God. Was that a bit?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the painting joke.
I
All
also
right.
like the scenario where George Bush, a very wealthy man, is like, I got to sell these
I
paintings.
gotta sell these really
um,
bad paintings.
I bet you some of those paintings are up at the stadium somewhere. I
Probably.
almost guarantee it. Maybe the owner's
There's at
box.
least a suite,
Yes.
there's a suite that you go into, and there's like a weird watercolor that you're
Yes.
like, "Oh, this must be the owner's son who drew it." And then you look up close and it's like
W.
43rd president of the United States of America.
And your favorite president, if I remember correctly.
Oh, don't get me
Um,
started.
Speaking of Justin Verlander, we just said his name. He is now a Met, 2 years, $86.6 million, tying exactly what Max Scherzer is making. Two old men making $40 million plus a year. I don't. It's a strategy.
Whatever.
I respect it.
Yeah,
All I have to say, we all know Verlander. He just won the Cy Young. He just won the World Series. He's married to Kate Upton. He's doing everything right. He's making $40 million a year plus. Um, the Cohen factor is very, very real. He does
yeah.
not care.
No, I mean, like, it's great, right? I mean, Steve Cohen should be in jail, but,
Yeah.
after that, at least he's spending his money on baseball.
Yep.
And, the Mets won 100 games last year,
They sure
and
did.
so, mm, there's no reason to suspect they won't be as good, if not better this year.
Yeah. We already talked about Quintana. He got a 2 year, $26 million deal with the Mets. All I have to really add flavor on this is great deal for the Mets.
Well, I gotta
My
give you
prediction was
you were
really
so
close.
close, you were so close. Right
Um,
when I saw it, Bennett kept saying 222,
yeah,
and so 226, and you were saying that, like within a week of the Cardinals trading for him,
yeah.
so, I'll give you it. Yeah, almost
So
nailed it.
should the Cardinals have made that deal? Probably. I don't know. He's like, how much does he move the needle? I don't know. For a team that has the rotation issues that the Mets have, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but
The
yeah,
so I think it matters if the Cardinals don't sign anyone else, then it's like, why did they not do
yeah,
that? There's a fair criticism going around too to say you gave Adam Wainwright 17.5 million, but you're not giving your game one playoff starter 13.
yeah,
Wainwright didn't even pitch in the playoffs because of his ineffectiveness.
yeah.
And we're paying him more than what Quintana is getting. I think that's a fair criticism, and I don't really have a rebuttal to it. Other than that, I'm assuming the Cardinals are going to use that money on something else.
I hope you're
Um,
right.
and there's of course the you know there's the legacy element of it. We're all fans. Like the Cardinals are willing to pay for fan service, and I think
Yeah.
we like that as Cardinal fans too, right?
Yeah.
So there's that element of it. But anyway,
Moving on, Josh Bell, 2 years, 33 million with the Guardians. I think this is a great move. We criticized him for his time with the Padres last year or at the end of last year, but he had a really good start to the season. This is a guy who, I mean, he's had some little stretches where he's one of the best hitters in baseball,
yeah,
top 10 hitter. And I'm not sure he's that guy, but doesn't strike out. He hits from both sides of the ball. He can run into some big time power. Makes a lot of sense for the Guardians.
he's 30 years old, so he's basically like Grandpa Bell for that team.
Yeah, yeah, he is probably. Oh my God! Wait, is he the only 30-year-old on that team?
Well, how old is Jose? Jose's getting close.
Jose's like
Uh,
28, 29.
yeah, Jose's got to be getting close, but they were the youngest team in baseball last year.
Yeah.
So no, Jose's also 30.
Okay.
Actually, let's see, Josh Bell. Hold on, I just had them next to each other. They are almost the same age.
Yeah.
Um, so Jose Ramirez was born on September 17th in 1992, and Josh Bell was born on August 14th, 1992.
Old man
So
Josh Bell. Wow.
Josh Bell is 1 month and 3 days older than Jose Ramirez.
But yeah, great move. Low strikeout guy fits right into what they're trying to do. They had no first baseman. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all I want to talk about as far as free agent signings. We can hit more of these next week. There's going to be probably more that have come in while we're recording and will come out before this episode
yeah.
even drops, but we'll hit that stuff. Other thing I wanted to talk about as far as league news, reportedly the Padres offered Trey Turner a record-setting contract for shortstop, somewhere in the 350 range, which would have outpaced the Mets shortstop, whose name is escaping me,
Lindor.
Francisco Lindor, by a few. And they also outbid the Yankees for Aaron Judge. And as we already talked about, he signed with the Yankees, of course. So first off, weird that they missed out on two players while throwing the most money at them, reportedly. Also, does this mean that the Cardinals and everyone else has to compete with the Padres when it comes to Rodon or Correa or Bogarts? Are they just going to go get one of these guys? Has Peter Seidler lost his mind? Not lost his mind. We should encourage wild spending. But
Yeah,
kind of a crazy thing that I did not expect. I thought the Padres would be looking for bits and pieces. Their team is very good already. Francis,
Tatis.
Fernando. Jeez, you go to bed. Fernando Tatis should be coming back at some point once his suspension is over. They have an MVP candidate in Machado. Soto, full season with Soto. I mean, they got a great team, but kind of changes the, what I think we should expect the rest of this
Yeah.
offseason to go.
When you know there's another rogue team out there just offering $300 million contracts, it's
Yeah.
but it might be though, Judge and Trey are very specific calibers of players, and
Yes,
once you get past those two, um, it it there are still great players, but it's a pretty big drop off
it
between
is.
those two into the next level. And I think about the Cardinals' own approach to this. Who have the Cardinals been willing to extend massive contract offers to in the past? It was guys like, well, Jason Hayward when he was still in his prime, David Price when he was in his prime, Giancarlo Stanton, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. They're willing to pay for these top tier guys, but will not pay for like anything else,
Yeah.
So, maybe that's what the
Yeah.
Padres are looking at too. Like, if we can get a Judge or a Trey, like, do it because that's franchise altering, but we're not gonna drop fat stacks on Dansby or whatever. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you're right on. But I will kind of put forward that I still think that Carlos Correa is one of those levels
Yeah,
of player. I think he is
that's fair. That's
he is
fair.
28 next year. He is an MVP candidate. He is somebody you could throw $300 million at. So like there's a chance that that infield might be some combination of Manny Machado, Carlos Correa, Fernando Tatis, Jake Cronenworth. Um, I mean, absolutely stacked, but yeah, we shall see. And
Yeah.
Hassan Kim had a great year this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Tatis might be outfield now going
yeah.
forward.
If
He
I was,
still
I would put him in
still out there.
center. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and last thing I had here is the Pirates received their first overall pick in the first MLB draft lottery. So uh,
Cool.
I can't wait for him to be on the Rays in 5 years or something.
Yeah.
I don't know who
Yeah.
cares, but yeah, that
I
that
was
happened.
I was glad for the Pirates. I like the Pirates, it's easy to in our position, but I like the Pirates. I still have some fondness for those 2 or 3 years where they were very
Yeah,
competitive and Andrew
the
McCutcheon
Cutchin
and,
MVP years. Yeah,
yeah,
that was fun.
yeah. So,
Yeah, speaking of the
beautiful ballpark,
Pirates,
that
oh yeah,
bridge,
yeah.
it's yellow.
Um, Freaking nailed it, bro. Um, Brian Reynolds, Pirates center fielder, has publicly asked for a trade, which, man, that doesn't happen a lot in baseball, but he sure did it. And it was quickly met with a "we don't care." Uh,
Yeah, shut down.
yeah, from the Pirates
We
front
look what
office.
they say, we look forward to having him in our outfield for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's like we will not consider this
yeah,
statement in our future plans.
yeah.
Blah blah blah. Yeah. Whew.
Oops.
Yeah, you don't
Swing and a
really
miss.
have leverage in baseball, just the way that those rookie contracts and the arbitration is
Yeah,
kind of set up. It's like, yeah, no, you're ours. So you should play well
yeah,
because you'll make more money if you do.
yeah. Don't blame him, though.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, not at all.
alright. Well, this has been a crazy week of really, like, a lot of it's been over the last handful of days, so probably will be a little bit of calm now after the winter meetings, but, there'll still probably be news trickling in, but before we wrap up the episode, of course, we've got another dumb game to play. We've spent a lot of time talking about the Cardinal catching situation for the first time in basically 25 years or so. The Cardinals did not know who was going to be their catcher going into the next season. We now know who that person is. So I started thinking, like, who have been some of the catchers for the Cardinals over the last 20 years when it's not Yadier
Oh
Molina?
no.
And I think an interesting way to view this is through the lens of Adam Wainwright, who has also been a member of the Cardinals for essentially the entire time. So, actually, this is coming from an article that came out right around the time that that Waino and Yachty were breaking that record. Uh, I have a list of catchers who caught more than 10 innings for Adam
Oh
Wainwright.
no.
And we're playing another round of our favorite game, Who Charted?
Wow.
Um, so Ben, we
Yeah.
all know so there's a list, top 10 catchers who've caught Adam Wainwright. Number 1, I'm gonna give you this one. It's Yadier Molina.
Yeah.
After Yachty, uh, who you got? And we're gonna do this the standard way. 3
Yeah.
strikes and you're out.
Oh, this is going to be a really short one. So Andrew Kisner.
All right, so
What?
he's number 3.
Okay.
He's caught 87 and 2/3 innings from Adam Wainwright.
Wow, that is way less than I would have guessed. All right.
All of these are way less than you would guess.
Yeah. My next guess is Matt Wieters.
Matt Wieters, 11.2 innings. He is number 10 on
What?
this list. Yeah.
I thought that was going to be a slam dunk right there,
The
right?
the thing you gotta remember is that even when Yachty was, like, unless he was straight up on the IL, at the very least, he was catching for Waino,
Yeah.
you know? So, I mean, you're right, though. He's number 10 on the
He's on the
list.
list. Yeah.
11.2 innings.
Um, oh God, it's going to get, this. Oh, Carson Kelly. Carson Kelly's got to be on that list, right? He caught some innings.
Carson Kelly is not on this
Oh my
list.
God.
That's,
Okay.
strike 1.
Yeah. You don't have any stupid little sound bites for me?
No, I didn't.
Um,
And also they're like super awesome sound bites. So
sorry. Oh God. The only reason this name is even in my head is because I think somebody was tweeting about him today. But oh shit, is it Tony Cruz? Is that a name?
yeah, of course. So I thought you'd get Tony Cruz first of all. So he's number 2. Tony
Okay.
Cruz,
Okay. There we go.
backup for the Cardinals
Yes.
for several years. He has 109 innings.
Yes.
He's number 2. So you've gotten the top 2, Tony Cruz
Okay.
and Andrew Knizner.
Um.
I will say the list gets a lot more challenging after this, but there's a few key backup catchers that you will know their names. You'll
Yeah.
know all these guys, but you know.
The only I'm trying to just think of catchers. So there's a guy that was backing up Yachty way back in the day whose name is just slipping me right now. And I can't remember if this guy was actually here long enough to rate on this, but I'm going to say Jason LaRue from back in the day.
Yeah, Jason LaRue. He's coming in at number 5, 31.1 innings. So that's the one that I thought you would get for sure.
Okay.
You remember he was, speaking of those Pirates years, he was the catcher, the backup catcher during that time period. So
Yeah.
not that long ago. You say back in the day, but he was he's the one who got kicked in the head by Johnny Cueto.
Well, I was just going to say, doesn't that kick seem like it was 1,000 years ago at this point?
Well, yeah, because, the last 3 years feels like 45 years. So,
Yeah.
but what was that like 2010 or
Yeah.
something like that? Yeah.
I don't know. Gary Gaetti. I have.
Gary Gaetti, swing and a
Yeah,
miss.
that would make sense.
Here's a hint.
Yeah.
There is a Gary on this list.
There is a Gary. That does not
um,
help.
this won't help either, but I would think you would love this guy.
Okay. Um, there's this guy. I cannot think of his name right now. I know Elias Diaz is the catcher for the Rockies, but like, there's a name like Elias Diaz. Oh shit. Oh God. I am Mark Gruzelanic.
All right, swing and a miss. So you're out. I'm going to give you the rest of the list here. I mean, you did okay. You got the ones that I thought you would get.
Yeah.
There's at least okay. I'll just run down the list. So Yachty number 1, and then Tony Cruz, Andrew Knizner, Gary Bennett,
Oh, come on. What?
Gary Bennett.
Yeah, yeah, I hear it.
That's why you'd love him.
Okay.
Jason LaRue, Eric Fryer.
Oh my God, I do not remember
Remember
Eric
him?
Fryer. No.
Matt Pagnozzi, remember him?
Oh yes, but that would have never come up.
No. And then this one I thought you might get, AJ Przinsky.
Oh, duh. Yes.
Yeah.
That
And
yeah,
then
that one makes me feel stupid.
after him was Matt Wieters.
I am yeah, I guess Matt Wieters was only for that second, but I felt so smart when I thought of Matt Wieters, but okay.
So this is an article from Fox Sports. It's actually pretty funny. They interviewed Wayno and they asked him how many he could remember. And he got a fair amount of them.
Yeah.
But the funniest one is that this was done in 2022.
Yeah.
It was done right around the time they were breaking the record, and he didn't remember Austin Romine, who he had pitched to like a month before. So,
Oh, that's really good.
yeah,
He was
but
not on the list though, right? To be clear.
no, no, no,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
no.
Whew.
Yeah. So yeah, you got half of them.
Yeah, that was tough.
Backup catcher is the most forgettable position,
Yeah.
in baseball
So
for
the
sure.
Diaz guy, was I? Is
I don't
that
know what you're
nobody?
thinking of.
Okay.
Well, but again, there's been other guys that have been
Yeah.
backup catchers, obviously for the Cardinals. Um, but this was just the top 10,
Yeah.
at least
Okay.
that Wayno caught or Wayno threw to.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe somebody in the bird squad will know, or I'm losing my mind, or tweet at us at Talk About Birds.
um, There's a guy named there was Tartamella.
Don't remember that.
And yeah, Travis Tartamella. Ed Easley is maybe what you're thinking of?
No.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm losing my mind. I'm sure
wait,
that's it.
Francisco Pena?
No, totally forgot about him.
Okay, I did too.
I'm
Yep.
telling
All
you,
right.
there's a Diaz out there.
I'm gonna stop scrolling through an article. This is
Okay.
good. An hour and a half into this episode. All right. Cool. Well, that'll do it. Big week for the Cardinals.
Big Willie style.
Big Willie style indeed. So this closes the book on one of the biggest questions of the offseason. We'll be back next week. We're going to try to talk some prospects, talk about the 2022 draft. We're going to talk about the Rule 5 draft.
Yeah.
What that even is, if you're not familiar with how it works. And, we've got a whole slew of just hot content we're going to be slinging all off season. So again, check out the Patreon, join the Birds Gourd. Shout out to the Birds Gourd. We love you.
Tweet.
Tweet. And until next week, go John Mozeliak, signing Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, let's Rodon.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. That's such a good opener.
Jesus Christ. Wake up. You wanted to.
Damn it, stop.